Whoever is listening, we're glad to have you in. This is the Name of the Plan podcast, episode 65. Today, guys, I am joined Patrick Neal. He is the co-host of Cover 2, presented by Tiger Vision, a good friend of the show and a good friend of mine. We do college football every Tuesday and some Instagram lives to back that up. So, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Grayson. I'm so excited to be here. I've listened to a few episodes, and I gotta say, I enjoy the work. So
Hey,
it's a cool gift to finally be on the show.
hey, it was a long time coming. It just had to happen at some point, and I felt like this was the perfect weekend to be able to do that. And speaking of this weekend, Patrick, we had semifinal games that either, depending on how you looked at it, it either lived up to your expectations or went exactly how you thought it was going to go. So I just want to start with the Bama game. I honestly, you have these things called expectations, and then you have these things called reality. And I think a lot of people thought that since he was going to get rolled over, it was going to be over by halftime. But the reality is, if Cincinnati put together a couple drives, it probably would have been a different conversation. Did you see anything different? Because I think that if Ritter and the offense had stepped up a little bit, because Cincinnati's defense was holding Bryce Young in check for the most part. So it was pretty entertaining, honestly, seeing the David versus Goliath aspect of it.
Oh yeah, I think you're right on the money. I mean, since Cincinnati was just unable to get in the end zone, which of course is going to be an issue when you're playing football and trying to win a football game. But yeah, Bryce Young, while he did have, I believe, 3 touchdowns, he didn't have his best game ever. Neither did Jamison Williams, who only had like 60, 70 receiving yards. So it was just that Bama was able to run all over the Cincinnati defense. Now, Cincinnati, I think they play a similar defense to that of Ole Miss. And if you remember the Ole Miss game, uh, Ole Miss got absolutely run over by Bama and Brian Robinson, and Bama just did the same thing. That was their game plan. Don't go towards the strengths of Cincinnati in their defensive backs, and just take on their defensive line, their linebackers all game.
Yeah, and I think that it was very important for the group of five as a whole to be in this game and not it be clear to the country that they were just inferior in every like aspect of the game because they were making hits. They felt like they belonged there. It felt like a worthy of a number 4 spot. That's always going to be the discussion with a group of 5 team. Like with UCF, when they play, if they were to play that 2018 Bama team, they probably would have gotten wiped. But there's just so many things that have happened. And I think the big question was, will Cincinnati hang around? And they really did. But Brian Robinson, man, the thing that they showed Damian Harris, who's now in the NFL, they had Najee Harris, who's now in the NFL. He just had to wait his turn, and he had an explosive game and an explosive day. I'm really excited to see how Bama responds when they play their next opponent. But do you have any lasting impressions for that game? Because there's just not like it just feels like a Bama domination, but at the same time, Cincy showed up.
I mean, Alabama won by 21, but like it honestly doesn't feel um like it was that much of a blowout. I mean, like you said, Cincinnati stayed with Bama for, I would say, at least the majority of the game. I
Yeah.
mean, they eventually kind of pulled away, but hopefully this isn't a be all say all for the group of 5.
Yeah.
Because I think Cincinnati pretty clearly deserved to be in here. Like there wasn't really much of a debate, which is pretty abnormal for most years of the college football playoff. Normally, you have a bit of a discussion for that number 4 spot, and we've really, if you look at past meetings between the 1 and 4, you have a blowout like 60-70% of the time. So I really don't want to hear that Cincinnati didn't deserve to be here. Cincinnati or a group of 5 teams should never get another chance because every year is different too. So it was a little unfortunate that it wasn't a bit closer, but yeah, Ritter and Alec Pierce, Jerome Ford, all them just weren't really ever able to get going. I think on their offense.
Yeah, and I think something that I caught on early is that Bama was just they seemed ready for a little bit of everything that Cincy was throwing at him. There was a point where Desmond Ritter's balls were getting tipped like 50% of the time. I don't know who 48 is on Bama, but he was up there. He was pretty much
I
ready.
believe it's Mathis. I can't remember his first
Yeah,
name.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
He was up. He was getting like deflection after deflection. They were just. I don't want to say that it was because Bama was better coach, but they've just been in these situations before. So it's not really like they win the Cotton Bowl and you see their interviews, they're kind of not really phased. They're just ready to go on to the next step. It's almost like a regular season game to them. But for all the naysayers out there in the group of five, all the haters, if you want to call them that, it's good to see that Cincinnati, like you said, just didn't bend over. They didn't just fall apart. They were really in it for a long time, and it's just unfortunate that they couldn't get it going in the end.
Yeah. I mean, this game was closer than the second playoff game. So, like, Cincinnati has that to say, at least.
Yeah, it felt like this one was a little bit closer, and like Cincinnati had a chance if they could put it all together. But a team that really didn't have it all together at any point in this game was Michigan, and
Yeah,
it
not at all.
was tough.
It,
I think that they got taken to the woodshed. It was Georgia. They came in. I think they were really waiting for a month to prove that Bama loss wasn't that good. It wasn't going to be their staple of their season. They came out there and pretty much played like they played for 12 games, and then they took the whole Bama thing out of memory, out of sight, out of mind. And I think I talked to you about it, saying this could be really good for them that they lost. Get a little slap to the face. You're not as good as you think you are. They go out there and they just take care of business. It was a domination.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, Georgia got a little bit of humble pie against Alabama, but had this entire month to prepare for Michigan, and obviously it paid off because Michigan could not run the ball very effectively, could not throw the ball. I guess they just don't really have the passing game necessary to open up the run game against this Georgia defense, which is absurd against the run.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's also a question as opposed to or about Michigan. Their goal every year is, of course, to beat Ohio State, and they completed that goal. So when that happened, when they did that, won the Big Ten championship, you almost wonder as if they almost lost that hunger, lost that fight, lost that motivation to play football to the best of their ability. And obviously, Georgia is a top two team.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to say that they should have won this game or they should have blown out Georgia or whatever. But you wonder with Georgia not being able to beat Bama in the SEC championship, but Michigan being able to beat Ohio State, which they have struggled to do, haven't been able to do since 2011, and then go on and win the Big Ten championship. You wonder if there's almost just a mismatch of levels of intensity, levels of hunger between the two.
Yeah, and I think for Harbaugh, the pressure was really off, and his back wasn't against the wall because no one's going to say, "Oh, you lost to Georgia in the playoff. You're done. You're gone." They took care of business. They really outkicked their coverage in terms of this season because they weren't even ranked to start the year. I
Yeah,
think
that's crazy now.
they're the only playoff team in the short years that we've had it that have started out ranked or unranked and then gone to be in the top two at the very least, which is unreal. And I so I'm watching this game and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a physical, this is going to be a dogfight. And Georgia came out, they were up tempo, they were throwing the ball, they're using kind of Michigan's tricks too. They were using the double passes. They're using
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of they watched that Iowa game, they're like, okay, we can do that too. And I think there was a point where I looked to my brother, my dad, and I said, this is going to get ugly. And it was when Georgia was up 7-0, they had just easily scored. And then Michigan went through for it on fourth down, which I commend the aggressiveness, and they just got stumped. And then Georgia went and it was 14-0 in a blink of an eye. And I was like, oh, here we go. So I don't want to say Michigan was like looking ahead or anything, but I think that this Georgia Bama matchup is what everyone thought we were going to get. And there's a lot of like, oh man, I can't believe we got it. But we expected this. We've been predicting it for months now that Georgia and Bama would face each other again, another SEC championship. So I'm really looking forward to that, and we'll talk about it obviously on cover two. But I think Georgia's hungry. I'm very excited for this.
yeah. I mean, they are obviously the two best teams in the country at this point. I don't think there's really any debate for anybody else being a top two team. But yeah, it's kind of the least interesting matchup, I guess you can say. I mean, not least interesting. Like it's a rematch. Georgia opens up as a favorite, as a
Really,
2.5 point favorite.
I have not seen
Yeah,
the line yet. That's
believe
interesting.
that. That's more rat poison that Nick Saban's going to eat up, I guess. But it is it's the least, I don't know. I don't know the word. It what we could have had so many other combinations with Cincinnati, with Michigan,
True. Yeah.
but we just get the SEC rematch, which is great. I mean,
If it's a good
um,
game at the end, it's not really going to
it's
bother
going to be
me.
a good game.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be quite the blowout as the SEC championship, especially with John Mechie being out.
Yeah, that'll I think that's something that we saw in the Cincinnati game where they just had to really hone in on one guy and kind of make sure he doesn't break free because you had other guys like Slay Bolden and you had I think it was like with their fourth they have so many good receivers just waiting to step out into the field so you can see why someone like they you had people transfer down or transfer up from Ohio State to Alabama. But it'd be an interesting matchup now because you only have one guy to worry about, but then Brian Robertson pops off for 200 yards. So Georgia's got a lot of they got to pick their poison, not to just completely talk about that rat poison. But I think if Georgia can replicate the pressure they got on Caden McNamara on Bryce Young, it could be very interesting because Deion Kendrick was getting there, former Clemson guy, gets back to the national championship.
2 interceptions.
Yeah, not many
So
Clemson fans are probably going to be happy that he's going, but
yeah,
he's doing his thing.
yeah, but yeah, him and Nakobe Dean played really, really well on defense. But also, Bama has been a little bit injured on the back end for their defense. The defensive backs. Armour Davis wasn't completely healthy. You saw him on the bike throughout the game.
Yeah, I did see that.
You got the likes of Josh Jobe and all that. So if they're all able to get healthy again, or it'll be interesting to see if they're able to get healthy again with just a week left before the championship game, and how
Yeah.
that plays a factor.
It's not a month anymore. It'll be, I keep thinking it's tomorrow, but it's next Monday. So they're
Mhm.
going to have that whole week in Indianapolis. If you got a quick prediction for it, what do you got? You got Georgia or Bama?
Ooh, I don't know, dude.
Tough.
It's going to be tough. I just seeing Georgia open up as a favorite.
Yeah, I don't
I
like that.
just I don't like, or at least for Georgia's sake, I don't like Nick Saban being an underdog again.
No,
I
that's
think I probably
dangerous.
got to go with Bama squeaking it out, and I think it'll be a little bit closer. Maybe like a 34-30, 34-27 kind of game,
That'd be a
kind of a
game.
touchdown field goal game, but something like that. I think is probably what it ends up being.
Yeah, I think that we're going to really see how Georgia responds to it's tough to beat the same team twice. I mean, we've seen that
It definitely is.
we've seen Clemson and Notre Dame do it recently. We've seen a lot of other matchups, especially within the conference. But for Georgia, it's going to be that this is. We look back in December, and I think that there could have been a lack of focus because they were going to be in the playoff regardless. If they had gotten like beat 63-0, maybe. But if they'd played Bama close and were at least alive during the game, I think that the CFP had no reason to keep them out. So there was a lack of there wasn't this real pressure for Bama. They were desperate. If they lost, they were done. So I think now that is kind of equalized and it's on the same playing field. So it comes down to can Kirby Smart just outcoach Nick Saban? And can that offense get going and stay consistent? Because they popped off to a 10-0 lead and Bama just slowly but surely just boom, 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 boom. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see indeed.
Yeah. Now, I really want to get into some of the other bowl games, but I really want to focus on the Rose Bowl. That was probably the favorite football game I've watched of the
Ooh,
year.
yeah,
That was
that
fun.
was. I enjoyed that very, very much.
Very much a track meet, if you
Mhm.
want to describe it as something. You had Ohio State, who started a little bit slow early. And I don't know if I texted you or somebody else, but my thing for Ohio State was, do they want to be here? Because they were a game away from being in the playoffs. They probably would have taken care of business against Iowa. Is the Rose Bowl more of a formality of them being there, or they actually wanting to fight for it? And I think it took them a little while. But they also had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave out, which we'll talk about later with the opt outs. But I think Utah came to play. I think Utah proved that they belong, that they were willing to compete. Cam Rising was fantastic until he got hurt. I wish I could watch it again. That's just really all I want to say.
Yeah, that was. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I was watching it with a bunch of family friends from our neighborhood, and oh my gosh, the second quarter especially, just touchdown after touchdown
Yeah.
after touchdown. It was to pay tribute to the late John Madden. It was like a Madden video game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
on with when you're doing it with your friends, and you're just four verticals down the field, Hail Mary every single time, touchdown, Mossed every single thing. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun.
It was great.
Yeah, you're definitely right about Utah coming to play. I think having so many fans in the stands was a
Yeah.
factor as well. You saw that Ohio State turned back. How many tickets was it? Like 7,000,
Yeah, I
something
think
like that.
the final numbers it was like 80% Utah and then 20% Ohio State or something like that. Because you could when Utah was playing Ohio State had a third down and you could hear it. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The atmosphere was crazy. And you are you glad to have Herb Street and Chris Fowler on that game because they also bring a certain amount of energy. They understand the moment, and it was just so great. It felt like a movie almost where C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith, Nick Jigba. It was just,
Oh
ooh,
my gosh.
he was like a
We,
video
we,
game
we got to
character.
talk about JSN.
My
Oh
guy.
my goodness. He was doing whatever he wanted out there. I mean, 347, 3 touchdowns, could have had another one if
Yeah.
if it wasn't for Clark Phillips, who also had a very, very good game. Interestingly enough, Clark Phillips was a verbal commit to Ohio State, ended up flipping to Utah, and forced 2 turnovers this game. But
Yeah.
yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba breaks a whole bunch of records. I don't even remember all of them. Like most receiving yards in a bowl game, most receiving yards. I don't even
Any
know.
record you can think of, he probably
Yeah,
broke last night.
his name's probably in that place now.
Retire his
Um,
jersey in the Rose Bowl stadium. Like, just
yeah,
get it done. I mean,
yeah.
and then Jamar Chase today said, "Hold my beer," pretty
Oh my
much. And
gosh, that was fun too. As a Bengals fan, that was to watch Jackson Smith and Jigba on Saturday, Jamar Chase on
yeah,
Sunday, Joe Burrow and C.J. Stroud both days. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun to watch. A lot
that
of
was
offense.
Stroud had a day too. He had almost 600 yards.
I think he broke a record or two
I'm
too.
sure they did. I mean,
But you also got like Marvin Harrison, who really stepped up. True freshman,
yeah,
Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm sorry, but he unleashed a little bit of his dad, and
out of
was
nowhere
able
too.
to. He got 3 touchdowns, so
Good for
that
him.
that
Good for
receiver
him.
room is stacked. Like
They'll
like
always
to
keep
have
rebuilding,
to,
reloading.
to have Marvin Harrison Jr. sitting on the bench all year, not do anything, and then come in and catch 3 touchdowns casually was awesome. And that touchdown he had, where he faked the slant, went back outside for the corner fade. That was
Looked
that
like
was
his dad.
dirty. That was dirty.
Looked like his
Uh,
dad. I felt old saying that one, but that was and you have those opt outs with everything, but CJ Stroud, I was surprised at how like unfazed he looked because Jackson Smith and JSN eventually became that number one guy, so they honed in on him, still couldn't stop him, and
yeah.
CJ Stroud had to rally them back from pretty much every time Ohio State had to step up on offense, their defense took 3 steps back because
Oh my
they
gosh, it
were
was
just
awful.
they're just
It,
slinging it, and Cam Rising is a tough son of a gun. He was getting
he
the crap kicked out of him.
he deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, it's
Um,
a shame that he left out, but
Yeah,
they weren't going to let
that
him
that
back
was
in.
unfortunate. But his backup came in threw a touchdown, and
A
didn't look
dot.
awful. I want to say he never like thrown a pass in college before or something.
I think he was basically mop up duty, handing off like the ball to like the third
Mm,
string running back with there's like a minute left when they blew somebody out. They said that he was like working on the farm too, as like a
yeah, as
just on the side or something like that. Comes into the
he's,
Rose
he's
Bowl.
he's thrown out there to his cattle. He's lifting hay bales
That's where he gets his reps.
to get his reps and to get his strength and conditioning in. But yeah, him, Britton Covey, the whole Utah team deserves a big,
Yeah.
big round of applause. Like, I had a friend who was like, I never even heard of the University of Utah. One, I don't know how that's possible. Like, he isn't the biggest like college football fan, but that just kind of shows you, you know, which that's a little bit disrespectful, but to any of the Utah fans. But I've heard from them before. But anyways, that just kind of shows you, I think what a lot of people probably thought about this game.
Yeah.
That Ohio
I
State
mean,
might have just walked out.
it
But
was like it was pretty much you have like everything that you'd expect from that game. You thought that it was going to be Ohio State. I personally believe that Ohio State was just like talent wise, it would eventually take over. Like there'd
yeah,
be a lot of energy. You'd be like, okay, Utah, you come to play. But and I think that comes with us not watching them enough because they're always on at like 11 o'clock at night and everyone's pretty much already tired enough from watching football all day. So going to watch the Utes, kind of like, all right, I've seen enough. I'm good. I'll go to bed. And so getting to see a new team and that energy, they had people and they were not even dressed up for the game. They were like jumping up and down and hugging each other during like touchdowns and stuff. So it was great to see. Really great to see that as a team. something that also made headlines, and this is probably going to be our final thing, maybe a little bit of a discussion because I don't really know where you stand on this, but there's always going to be the debate of what the opt-in versus opt-out situation is, because you saw that what Kirk Herbstreit said, where this era of football or these era of players just don't love football, which is a very like it's very
Very,
it's a
very
big
controversial
statement.
statement.
Like it's very much a generalization, but it's a big statement to make because you have, and I think with this kind of debate, it's not like you're right on, you could take either side, and I don't think you're necessarily correct because there's so many different circumstances where you have players like Jalen Smith who blew out his knee, and I think it was the Fiesta Bowl, lost millions of dollars. And granted, he was able to get some of that back because he had such a good career in the NFL. But you have players like Pickett, who I was like, all right, you need to opt in and you need to stay because you're a fringe first rounder and you could really, and where Pittsburgh needed him, and they ended up losing the game, he could have really risen his draft stock because everybody's watching these postseason games. So I don't really take a stand for it because I think one side or the other is really, yeah, but one thing on, but on the other end, there's this, on the other end, there's that. So where do you stand on this whole opt in, opt out thing? I think in part of it is I think that the playoffs, because they're part of this New Year's Six rotation, the other four games seem less significant. So I don't, maybe when they expand the playoffs, there'll be less opt outs because there's more to play for. But I think this whole playoff system has kind of played a huge role in this opt out thing because we didn't see that in the BCS era for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so of course, the headline here is Matt Corral.
Yeah.
He goes in, gets injured early. It looks early reports are saying that it might just be a sprained ankle and that it probably won't affect his draft stock very much.
Yeah.
But you saw him coming out on crutches, and he was pretty emotional, and you see that, and you just feel for the guy. But in terms of you can't fault a player for choosing to opt in, choosing to opt out. Like Matt Corral, for example, he said he never even thought about opting out. He said he was in all the way, wanted to end the season with his teammates, and different players have different motivations. So if a player decides to opt out, you can't you don't know the intricacies of his specific situation. So I don't think you can really judge a player on that too much. Now, I would say, as a college football fan, I'm hoping every single player opts in. Because it makes for better games, makes for better football. But I personally can't judge a dude, can't say that he is, doesn't love the game or anything like that. When you also have coaches, for example, leaving,
there's that other side.
Finishing out the season, like you got Lincoln Riley, you got Brian Kelly, all them leaving early to go to other jobs. So that it doesn't really match up. I would say though that especially now with the college football playoff era, that bowl games probably they don't mean as much for whatever reason, which is kind of unfortunate. I don't know how you change that to make bowl games more important. I don't know. Maybe the sponsors incentivize them incentivize the players with I don't even know.
They could definitely do that now, though.
Endorsement deals or whatever that may be, but I don't know. It's a tough conversation that comes around every single year.
Yeah.
Ever since players have started to kind of do that, but yeah, I just don't think you can judge every single player based on a few cases, really.
Yeah, and I think for a fan's perspective, I've part of me wonders is when you buy those tickets for those near six bowls and then you find out like your starting quarterback's opting out, like how does that ticket value go down to those bowls? And I'm like looking at it from a completely not even a football perspective, like a business side of it. There's two sides to the same coin on this, where one, on the other hand, this bowl needs Kenny Pickett to play because that'll raise the viewership. More people will watch, more people will buy tickets. But then what if this guy just can't possibly get hurt because he's a fringe? If he gets hurt and tears his ACL or can't play football ever again, he will lose out on millions and potentially won't be able to take care of his family. There's so much. So I think for Herbstreit, I think it comes from himself because he is a player as well. So it's probably really emotional with this because everybody, it's like a brotherhood. well, those college football players. And so to have someone turn their back on the program, that's a little harsh to say out loud. But you know what I mean.
I don't know if turn your back on the team
Yeah.
is the right words, but because you still have players on the sidelines with them or up
Oh,
in the
I mean,
booth, like
Pickett
Kenny
was
Pickett
there. He
was.
was
Yeah.
helping out the OC, which is
Mhm.
fine. It's fine. And then you have programs like Clemson, obviously, not to toot our own horn or anything, but no opt outs there in the
No
Cheez
opt
It Bowl.
outs. No opt outs. Cheez It Bowl
No.
champs. We the cheesiest.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
yeah, that's I love it. I love the Cheez It Bowl.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it's going to be a constant debate, and I think that the expansion that I think we all think is coming, or believe it to be coming very soon.
yeah,
I don't know what soon is for the NCAA or the CFP, but I think that I was talking about this earlier to some other people. Is if they made the semifinals separate from the New Year's Six rotation, then it would kind of be its own separate entity and more of a reward to be selected for those bowls because you have the rotation of the two bowls every year, and so you're playing in the other ones, and you're like, oh, this kind of feels like an afterthought. So maybe if you just made the semifinals exclusive to the semifinal, and maybe there's some brand deal or there's like contracts that I'm just speaking out madness, but it feels like the New Year's Six attachment to the playoff makes it less significant if you're playing in the Chick-fil-A or the Peach Bowl, not the Chick-fil-A Bowl, the Peach Bowl, and you're also 3 hours before someone just played in the Cotton Bowl, and that's the winner of that goes to the national championship. So it feels a little bit like there's some issues that need to be worked out for sure.
yeah. Maybe that's something they try out, making it separate from all the bowls. Maybe that adds a little bit more importance to the
Yeah,
game. But like for example, with the Ohio State fans turning back 7,000 tickets, you see just how different bowl games are now.
it's playoff
Which
or bust.
yeah, which is again kind of unfortunate, but then you get classics like Ohio State and Utah.
Yeah,
You get games that are great to watch, and I personally very much enjoy sitting on my couch all day watching all the random bowls that you could
yeah,
possibly like Duke's Mayo Bowl.
love it.
No other bowl had as much hype going into that game as the Duke's Mayo Bowl because of the Mayo Bath,
And
which
Shane Beamer got smacked in the face too
yeah,
by the.
he
He
might
got
he might
smacked
be
right
a little
here.
bit concussed after that one. But
It did not look light at all. That dude got whacked.
if you got to have a coach getting Mayo Bath after every single bowl game to add a little bit more importance into it,
Yeah,
fine by
maybe,
me.
maybe.
It'll be fun to see.
I
But
mean, the Cheez It Bowl too was goofy, but like it was the like what if of like how is this going to turn out? Very interesting. And I know as a Clemson fan, thinking if you had told them in the beginning of the year before the Georgia game that they'd be in the Cheez It Bowl and not the playoff, they would have been like, well, why? Why does that matter to me? But it was fun. They were really out there fighting. It ended up being a pretty good bowl game. It was goofy. You had a Cheez It mascot slide coming in from a zip line. And it was I
what
was
is it?
sitting there
Prince
with like
Chedward? Prince Chedward?
Prince Jedward.
Yeah.
You had to call him Sir too.
Solid mascot. Yeah.
Sir Jedward.
Uh, yeah, but I feel like a lot of Clemson people were embracing the Cheez It Bowl.
Yeah. It was
So
fun.
maybe that's what you do. You get the most insane sponsors you can possibly get. Although there is also a conversation of whether they should be sponsored or not. I mean,
Yeah.
because maybe the sponsors are the ones taking the importance out of it. But maybe just get the most insane sponsors possible. Bathe the coaches in whatever the sponsor is,
Yeah.
in a bath afterwards. Or I don't know, like maybe the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. Bathe, dump a bunch of PlayStation 5s on the
I
winner
feel
of
like
the
that
coach.
hurt.
It might, but resale value. Everybody's looking for a PlayStation
Give
5
them a
now.
free PlayStation 5. I think they do anyways. If they're in the bowl
They
game, they
probably
like,
do. I gotta assume so.
dude, I'm signing up to I'm gonna be a football
Yeah,
player.
I can't imagine Mike Gundy though using a PlayStation 5 that much.
He's sitting there with the mullet and he's like, I don't know what to do with this.
He chopped it off though. He got a
He
haircut.
did?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
that's
was.
so unfortunate.
I know. It was pretty
That's
sad to see.
I was about to say this is why Oklahoma State lost, but they didn't. So
Yeah.
poor Marcus Freeman.
Tough look for Marcus Freeman. I was hoping he would pull that out, I think.
Yeah, it was a tale of two halves for sure. But I mean, that's what you get. The bowl season, you can never really predict it. You can't really if you go chalk, you're gonna go. It's like the March Madness tournament.
Yeah, it's bowl mania. That's why
Yes.
nobody ever gets them all right.
Can't. It's possible. And if someone has, please hit me up because I would love to see that bracket. That'd be kind
Yeah,
of insane.
I'd love to hit you up for Bullmania advice next year.
Of course, of course. All right, guys, that'll do it for the Man with the Plan podcast, joined by Patrick Neal, co-host of Cover 2, college football extraordinaire, and he's a homie. Gotta appreciate you coming on,
I'm a
man, at
homie?
such short notice. Yeah,
Let's
bro.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Really appreciate you
I
going
love
on for
homie.
such short notice because we're doing if you
I
guys
love
are
it.
listening to this tomorrow, which is going to be Monday for you guys, there's going to be back-to-back episodes. We're going to do an NFL episode releasing on Tuesday. That's going to talk Jamar Chase's record-breaking day. Antonio
Let's
Brown.
go. Bengals clinch, baby.
What's wrong with Antonio Brown? And so much more. Patrick, do you know what's wrong with Antonio Brown before we sign off?
Dude, I could not tell you. That man is I don't even know. I got no
for
words.
Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, well, that's an understatement, I think.
All right, that'll do it, guys, for the Man with the Plan podcast. Subscribe for more, leave a 5-star review, or simply just comment what you want to see next. Guys, thank you as always, and be sure to take care.